All right, well, welcome everyone to the March Fostoria Area Safety Council meeting. I have just a couple of announcements. Just a reminder, our $1,000 scholarship that we give out annually to a student in the 44830 zip code is still available. We are accepting applications through April 1st. We have not received any applications yet. We have had years where we don't receive any applications. I've sent reminders to all the schools. So if you know a student with a 44830 zip code going into anything loosely tied to safety, have them fill out this application and get it back to us April 1st because they are eligible for a $1,000 scholarship. Also, just a note for, sorry, do we have a comment? Okay. Also, just a note for our April meeting. April, there is a mega meeting hosted by the Ohio BWC that will take the place of our regular meeting. So we'll put that in the safety newsletter, send you updates accordingly. But note that that meeting is Wednesday, April 11th, and it has an 11 o'clock start time. So that's a little bit different than ours, but we will send all of that to you in updates as well. All right, at this time, I will turn it over to Dave from the BWC, as I believe he does have some updates for us.
I have a few. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Just a couple of things. As most may know, that our services are back out in the field. So if you need consultation, certainly contact us. We can go out on site, and then also we're going to continue to do virtual. So that is a huge benefit for those who may not have time and logistically just want to be able to communicate with us. We can do that. As for training, there's an OSHA Construction 10 training session. It's free. It's for Spanish speaking individuals. It's going to be in Spanish. That's going to be held March 28th and 29th from 9 until 4:30. And that's going to be in Springboro, Ohio. I sent the information to Sarah. So if you have an interest in that, certainly contact her and she can forward you the flyer. Also, the BWC has a continuation of a program, Better You, Better Ohio. It's for health and wellness. It's an incentive program for employees and individual employees or employers for individual employees who are wanting to participate in health and wellness, where they can get an incentive, monetary incentive for about $75 and then an additional $50. The paperwork, it's a simple process. It's paperless and there's no cost. And so that information's been provided to Sarah as well. And then finally, and there is a webinar for that. That's coming up here Tuesday, March 22nd. It takes about 25 minutes to review. And you can find that through the BWC website. And then also there's a slew of classes between now and the next Safety Council meeting, the mega meeting. There's 14 different offerings between now and then. And so if you're interested, certainly get online and take a look. It's through the BWC Safety Service Catalog. And that's pretty much it for me.
All right, thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
We also have with us from the BWC today, we have Deb Schultz, and she is a regional business consultant and from the Employer Services Division. And she's asked for just a couple minutes today at our meeting to share a new BWC program. So Deb?
Well, thanks for the applause, Ken. I see that. Well, good morning, everyone. I promise to be brief. The business consultants have been charged with promoting the Substance Use Recovery and Workplace Safety Program. I know that is a mouthful, but the original program was designed to assist employers who were interested in hiring individuals who were in recovery. Well, the program still encourages businesses to do so, but the program has expanded to provide reimbursement to any employer who has some form of a substance or drug-free safety program. And it doesn't have to be BWC's, because we all know that BWC's program is quite stringent in its requirements. And if you're in one of BWC's programs, such as Group Retro you are not eligible to receive those rebates because for drug-free, because the program discounts are greater than the drug-free. Well, this still applies. You can have BWC's drug-free safety program, or you can have a hybrid drug-free safety program of your own and be eligible to receive these reimbursement for the costs you've incurred to have that program. So as I said, it is a reimbursement. You can be in any of BWC's program like Group Retro or any of the others that are not compatible. The enrollment is very easy and it's designed to be simple. It provides reimbursement for your written policy development relating to substance use issues. It also reimburses for legal review of your program. And with laws constantly changing, it's a great time to have that legal review of your current policy for any possible revisions. It also reimburses for employee training and supervisor or employee education and supervisor training. It also includes reimbursement for a train the trainer program. Your employees need to be educated on your program so that they know what they're being held accountable for. And your supervisors need to be equipped to deal with substance use issues, reasonable suspicion, how to refer employees for available resources. And BWC will reimburse for drug testing, pre-employment, post-accident, random, reasonable suspicion, and return to duty testing. If your written policy offers what we're calling a second chance, in other words, you won't terminate on a first failure. And we do need to see that in your written policy. There's information on our website on this. And currently you can apply for reimbursement back to July 1st of 2019. So if you've had some form of a drug-free safety program going back to July 1st of 2019, and you can dig up that paperwork for your training, your policy development, legal review. And if your current policy offers that second chance for after a positive screening, you can submit those documents for reimbursement as well. To be eligible, all you have to do is be a state fund employer in Ohio in good standing currently with BWC. Now, employers who are not eligible, state agencies, self-insured employers, client employers of the self-insured PEOs or the AEOs. And as of December 27th, this was just rolled out statewide. When this was originally offered in July of 2019, there were select counties. It was kind of a pilot program. And I just took a peek. We do have two different segregations per se of reimbursement because originally this was offered through local ADAM-H boards. Well, then we rolled it out to the rest of the counties where there wasn't an ADAM-H board involvement. And those are what we're calling BWC direct bill reimbursement. So I took a peek and Fostoria falls right in the middle of Wood County, Hancock, and Seneca. And Wood County is a direct bill. Hancock and Seneca are ADAM-H boards. If you go to the website and you identify the county your business is in, it will provide the appropriate application. You can complete it online and it'll go directly to either the ADAM-H board if you're in one of the ADAM-H counties, or if you're in Wood County, it'll come to BWC. There's really nothing that you have to do. I mean, I encourage every employer to go ahead and apply, get the application submitted. You'll receive immediate notification of approval. If you have the ability to get all your prior year documentation, even if you don't offer the second chance for a positive test, all your other components of having a drug-free program back to July of 2019, you can request reimbursement for. If you never submit a request for reimbursement, you're out nothing if you at least get the application in. The one time sensitive component of this is we're only going retro to July of 2019. up through June 30th of this year. So we're really getting close there. After July 1st, you'll be able to go retro 12 months to request reimbursement. So as I said, as of December 27th, it was available to all 88 counties. If you're in the ADAM-H board, your reimbursement will be funded through the ADAM-H board. The link is on the website. And if you're in one of the counties, it's a direct bill. And there is a map on the website that shows this. Then you will receive direct reimbursement from BWC. The caveat with the direct reimbursement, if you've ever received a safety grant, you have to have a supplier ID number. If you've never, you probably already have one if you've received a safety grant from us. If not, you will have to go to the State of Ohio website and complete a supplier identification for that. And as I said, we've got a time sensitive period here through June 30th to get some of the funds back for prior years. But going forward, I encourage every employer, if you have any form of a drug-free safety program, utilize these funds and get reimbursed for some of the costs. I will put my contact information in the chat as soon as I can find it. And please don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you, Deb. All right. Thank you, Deb. We appreciate that. All right. So we will move into our program. And today we have with us Dylan Foukes, who is a traffic maintenance engineer with ODOT. So Dylan, welcome and thanks for joining us today.
Hi, thanks for having me. Let me get going here. We're going to talk about work zone maintenance of traffic today. So let me share my screen. One sec. Make sure this works real quick. Okay, you see that slide? Okay,
Yes,
great.
we do.
All right. So yeah, that's what we're here to talk about this afternoon. This is me, Dylan Foukes, traffic maintenance engineer, Ohio Department of Transportation. I'm in District 2, which covers, we're out of Bowling Green, which covers the 8 counties in Northwest Ohio. There, it finally goes. So, we're talking about work zones, we're talking about temporary traffic control in those zones, and what is the purpose of it? It's we're trying to communicate with road users what's going on through a roadway that has been affected from its normal operation. Now, it's normally, on a typical day, you don't have anything in the roadway. Well, then all of a sudden you might have maintenance activities. You could have something, the road could be flooded. There's a number of things that you could have a utility pole that's down. Whatever has changed from a normal roadway characteristics, it has now changed due to some type of thing that's now in the roadway. So now we're having to deal with how do we get drivers around this area, either through the zone if there's room, or if we have to detour them another way. All these things I'm going to talk about today come from the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices. Now, this is a federal manual that covers throughout the U.S. So these provide the minimum standards for all roadways, all public roadways. Now, each state and even local municipalities can go above and beyond this. So, in Ohio's case, we have the Ohio Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices. So we have things that build upon what's set as the minimum. And you could even have municipalities that go even a step further, but that's what we're working off here. Again, this is something that's published by the US DOT. I'm going to talk about part 6, which is temporary traffic control zones. And this is updated. I mean, we're actually working off one that's from like 2012 right now. So they're discussing a new one coming up soon. There's been discussion about different formatting and different things about it, but I know there's a national committee now that's looking at releasing a new update. So with that, there'll be, each of the parts within the METCD get updated, and each state then looks at it and decides what they want to build upon that. Here's how it used to be that you could get a manual separated out. It was this orange book, people would refer to it. I don't think these get printed anymore like anything else. People just get PDFs, or there's actually apps that you can load on your phone that list that information as well. So there's a, ODOT has a work zone app that covers a lot of the items in this manual. So when we're talking about traffic control devices, we're talking about signs, cones, barrels, the arrow boards that you see out there that tell you the lane's closed, message boards that are helping provide extra information, pavement markings that we got to change due to the, whatever type of work is going on there that's long-term. Then we have our barriers that can either are there to protect the workers by keeping vehicles out of that zone, or if we're just talking about barricades and things like that to help tell drivers they need to go a different way. So when we get into the work zone, it's made up of a number of components here. First one is the advanced warning area. So this is where we're going to start telling the driver that something's coming up. You got to let them know, hey, up ahead, there's something that's not part of the normal roadway. And how do we do that? We're doing that with signs. Typically, the signs are out there telling people that something's coming up. If you don't do this, as you can see in the little graphic there, there's no warning, surprises people, and you may end up having an incident. So that's the key, to get those signs out there and make sure drivers are aware of what's coming up. So again, get their attention. Road work ahead's the first sign people always see. Then you got to tell them what the situation is. In this case, if you're on a divided highway or like I-75, you're going to say a right lane closed. And then you got to tell them what to do. They got to merge left. So those are kind of the sequence of things that you're telling people as they're approaching a work zone. Sizes, signs, the sizes we put out there, anything you see, we have those roll-up signs, which we'll show a little bit here, but those are all 48 by 48 inches. And so those are meant for high speed, higher visibility. And as you go down in the lower speeds, you can go with smaller sizes. Positioning of signs, you want to put them where they can be seen. On divided highway, you put them on both in the median and on the right side of the road. And you're trying to get them in a place where people can see them easily and have time to respond as needed. This is one of these pictures that are, I'm sorry, with some of these slides, the pictures are kind of dated, but this was from a training that we had put on here for the HTs, or our highway technicians. And I know there's been a movement to update these pictures with newer ones, so I apologize in advance, but this is not Ohio. I don't think we have any palm trees going down the sidewalk, and unfortunately, but when you get into a downtown or urban environment, it's harder to find places to put signs, and also you're fighting for people's attention with all the other things that are going on. You got parked cars, you got storefronts, you got their signs. So there's always a lot of things going on in a downtown area that you got to really try and get people's attention. This is just a personal pet peeve of mine. There's a sign in place, and then they go put the warning sign that there's construction right behind it. Now in this case, there's probably somebody had a plan that said, oh, here's the plan for our project, and all they did was follow this. This says it's supposed to go at station 150, so they go out and put it in at station 100 plus 50. Well, they didn't take into account that the sign's there. Maybe that wasn't there when the plan was created, but it's there, so you got to make adjustments. You got to think about, hey, is this really something that someone's going to see? It's kind of pointless to stick it right there behind that other sign. Also clusters, that's another thing you want to avoid. You know, you have enough things out there for you're trying to get people's attention, and then you don't want to put them all with the other signs that are around it. So in this case, you know, you either want to remove or cover those other signs so that, you know, people can see the ones that are critical right now to what you're actually doing on the roadway. Sign spacing, that's another thing, just like the sign size, it's a function of speed as far as how far apart they're spaced out. And then also the environment, like I talked about, you have urban, you're gonna be a little tighter spacing, and you also gotta deal with, you know, the curbs and pedestrians. Rural situations are a lot easier to deal with. They are higher speed, but usually have a lot of room out there in the rural area. And then, yeah, expressways, you know, freeways, I-75, we're gonna have a really long gap in how far out we place those signs, because people are traveling, you know, 70, 80 miles an hour. So you need to space them out further so they have time to comprehend it and then react. Here's a chart that shows the type of spacings that you see. Actually, the next slide shows it, so I apologize, but you know, the A, B, and C, the A is actually closest to your work area. The B is intermediate, and the C is the farthest back. So if you go down to the bottom of the chart there, you see 1,000, 1,500, and 2,600. So you're really looking at basically a mile when you add all those together from where that first sign is seen, that road work ahead, to actually when you're getting to the point that you have to do some type of maneuver, like a right lane close. So again, going to that bottom case, you know, a mile back, that's going to be the C position. You're going to be at where your road work ahead is. The next one, B, is going to be where you'd say right lane closed, and then the A location would be telling you you got to merge left. Let's see, here's again diagramming that. This is the diagram here leads to a closure, a one lane closure with the flagging situation. So again, A, B, C, you have those. A is closest to the work zone. You have B and then C. So going back here real quick, in a rural location, a 2-lane road where you're just doing a flagging situation, you're going to be looking at 500, 500, 500. Pretty easy. It's easy for our guys that are setting up signs in the field to know that, hey, we're out on our 2-lane country road. You know, it's 500, 500, 500 to set these signs up. Height clearances. So now these signs that we're placing, they're for on a temporary basis. You know, they could be for a couple of hours, they could be a couple of days, it could be months, depending on how long you're gonna be out there. Typically, for our short-term type of projects, you just have to mount it at 1 foot off the road. We have those roll-up signs. Next picture here shows it, but I'll just show it right now. So here's a typical sign that we're putting up on a temporary stand. It's minimum of 1 foot off the roadway. Going back here real quick, post mounted. We're gonna post mount signs that are there for a long time. We're not putting them on a temporary type of support. These are the ones that are already, you're gonna drive supports into the ground, and they're gonna be there a long time. So if you're in a rural area, that's 5 foot to the bottom, and urban areas 7 foot. And here's that sign. And then here'd be something that you would see post mounted. So that matches what our typical permanent sign is actually. So that's what you're going to have up there for a long-term type of project. Again, here's showing urban, 7 foot. You want to get above so you're not blocking any site views and people aren't banging their heads on it. Not that you have a lot of 7-footers around, but you never know. All right, so that brings us back to this breakdown of the work zone. So we did the advanced warning area, now we're into the transition area. And when we're in the transition area, now we're talking about moving traffic. You've already given them the warning of what's coming up, what they need to do. Now you're gonna actually have to move the traffic. So we're talking about tapers, taking people over from a lane that's closed, moving them into the lane that's open. You know, that's where our cones and barrels, and if it's barrier wall out there, we're gonna have that. All those things. If it's long-term, we're gonna have pavement markings that match up with that as well. Here's just another picture of a taper showing that you're going from 2 lanes down to 1. The devices that we're using, you know, which are referred to as channeling devices. They're there to direct traffic from one lane to another. You know, they're reflectorized for nighttime. We used to have to put lights on all the drums that we put out there, but the sheeting has gotten so much better over the years that we don't need to put lights on them anymore. The light coming back from the headlights is enough to, you know, for the drivers to pick up easily. Yeah, here's just a variety of them. You got cones, drums, tall skinny barrels that we call grabber cones because they got a little loop up on the top. Those are the types of things that we're typically looking at. Yeah, the cones and tubular markers, those are, depending on your use, they can be as small as 18-inch for a daytime low speed, 28 inches, that's what we buy for all of our stuff is 28 inches. But we won't use those on the freeway. When we go out on the freeway, we're using the taller 42-inch grabber cones, which you'll see here. This is a type. So it's still considered a cone. It's kind of a skinny barrel, you know. So it has the height. It's got just gives people more of a target to avoid, I guess, better than a cone. Now there's hours on when you got to go from cones to drums. You know, so if you're doing type of situation where you're going day and night, you're going to want to get into using drums instead of cones. Drums are the biggest thing that we put out there as far as channelizing devices, so it sticks out further. People don't want to hit them, so that's a good thing. But every year we're buying new. We just bought some. We buy a couple hundred every year for our district because they get beat up over the summer, so you got to replace them. Here's just seeing what's acceptable. Obviously, not acceptable. Barricades. These are where you're coming to see. A road's closed ahead. We'd hope everybody obeys these when they get to them. Typically, you got a road closed on it, but a lot of times you have people, especially when a closure first starts, they just drive around them and go, "Oh, I'm going to see if the road's actually closed." You know, but when those are up, the roadway is closed, so we hope that people pay attention to that. But biggest thing these days is people's GPS, their Waze or Google Maps is telling them to go this way, and they're not aware that there is a closure on their GPS, so they just go right by the barricade, even though it's saying road closed ahead. It's actually 3 types of barricades, type 1, 2, and 3. All we use is the type 3 triple rail for our road closures. Again, that's just telling you what they're used for. They do have the orange and stripes down on them. Those are actually, I didn't know this until I got started working into the transportation field, but those do actually point to the way you're supposed to pass the barricade. So in that, I think the next slide shows you. So yeah, you see them down, the stripes are pointed basically down to the left, so that's the way you're actually supposed to pass the barricade. Not many people recognize that, but just one of those tidbits of information. Now, spacing these out, again, factor speed on how far apart you're going to place your drums or your cones. As you see on multi-lane roads, it's 1 times the speed limit in feet. And then as you get into straight tangent sections, you can go 2 times the speed limit. again, those are the max spacings. We, a lot of times when we're talking about these things, we're either giving min or max. This is the max spacing. The skip lines on the roadway, those are 10 foot of paint and a 30-foot gap. So those are every 40 feet. So those are when our guys are placing out cones or barrels, that's what they're using to figure out how far apart they're going to place those devices. So if you have a 70-mile-an-hour road, well, we'll just say 65-mile-an-hour road, you get max, you can space those out in the on the taper is going to be 65 feet. Well, if they're looking at the markings, they'll move those in a little bit, knowing that the spacing on the pavement markings are every 40 feet. So that's how they'll space those out on those tapers. Again, this is just talking about, our devices, when they're out there, they should be, and then these are in all of our documentations. When we have a contractor, you got to keep these things in good shape. We don't want things that have been beat up or destroyed being out there. So we need to keep up on them and replace them as needed. So now we get past the transition area and we're getting into the work area, which is basically broken into the buffer space and then the workspace. Workspace is where you're actually, the point of why you're out there doing something. So that's where you're actually doing your work with people and equipment. The buffer space before that is to leave that space for any errant vehicles that are happen to miss all the signs and tapers and all that stuff, and they make a last second maneuver to try and avoid things. Okay, so buffer space provides a recovery area, like I said, for errant vehicles, and you want to keep them empty. You don't want any fixed objects in there. You don't want parked vehicles so that somebody blows through the taper, they're not going to hit a vehicle. You need to keep those empty. Here's just a diagram of it. Again, sorry for the old photo, but you can see there you get a bridge project here. There's a crane sitting up in the lane that's closed. You got a long buffer area in case somebody blew through that area. You don't want them to run into the crane. So that's how you give them some time before they get there. Again, it's a function of speed. So the different types of speed you're looking at, on an interstate route, 65 miles an hour, you're talking 645 feet. So it's a substantial distance that you're going to put in there to keep it clear. Gets us into the workspace. So that's where we're actually doing the work. Overall, we're minimizing the conflicts in that path, with the traffic space around the work area. That's highlighted here. That's the lane that's free and clear that we want everybody in to get around our work area. Then we get by the work. Now you're in the termination area where you're getting people back on their regular travel path. So that's after the zone, and people can look forward to be able to resume at normal speeds and without interruptions. Typically at the end, we might have a 100-foot taper at the end of it. And if it's a longer term setup, we'll put an end roadwork sign. Typically, we don't put those up for like daytime closures. If we're out there, for not very long, because it's just an extra sign we got to put up and then take down. Obviously, if it's a daytime thing, we're gone, so you don't need to have it up any longer. So we talk about other supplemental devices, arrow boards, message boards, portable signals. Into some of these. Here's everybody's favorite arrow board. This is the one that grabs people's attention the most. They might see the signs that say right lane closed ahead, but they don't really believe it until they get up to actually see the arrow. And then it's like, okay, now I got to get over. So those are there to move that traffic over. It's there to supplement the advanced warning signs. You got to have the advanced warning signs, but on top of that, you got it. The arrow board as part of Ohio's standard construction drawing for a lane closure, but now could you do one without it? Yeah, sure. So again, we're talking about lane closures, shoulder closures only. It's not there to move traffic around, and we'll get into that here. And also the site, you can see it from far away. It's lit up. It's definitely the thing that gets attention. As I mentioned, you're moving traffic into a different lane or closing the shoulder. You're not using it to on a flagger situation or anything else. Size again with these can vary depending on the type of roadway. We end up using just the largest one because that covers you for whatever type of situation. But if you were a small municipality, maybe you could get by with a smaller one. Plus, it's you're gonna be dealing with tighter roadways, urban environments, so you may not have room for a larger board. Various operations of the board, pretty typical here. The arrows are for closures. The caution, typically for the shoulder work, we're using the 4 dots there in the bottom left of the diagram there. So that'll just flash, and that's telling you that the shoulder is closed. Just another picture of a lane closure here with the arrow board right at the beginning of the taper. Here's more of your urban environment laid out. So you're taking up some space there between the curb and the lane that was there. So then you got your arrow board ahead. These get a little tricky, but you can close the center lane and have people go on each side of it. Usually you don't like to do that just because, well, we will do these at some of our long-term crossovers on the interstate, but typically you try and avoid some of these just because it creates a target thing right away or right straight ahead. So if you don't move, you're going to run right into that. Again, just a picture of showing the 4 dots on the board as a closure, as a shoulder closure. Here's a picture of one that's the improper type of use. If you go to the left there, you're going to run into oncoming traffic. Looks on the right, they're just moving over a little bit. They're not closing a lane, so it's really not a proper use of the arrow board. Again, we're not using it to shift lanes over or shift traffic, and you don't use it in a flagging operation. Message boards, these are the things we try and get out there as much as possible. It grabs drivers' attention the most. They might drive by 10 signs and not pay attention, but the message board will typically grab their attention. So we like to get messages out there, especially in advance of road closures, any major type of events, just to let people know what's coming up, when it's going to happen, and then when it's actually in place. So again, and a lot of these today, they have remote communications. You can, from your desk or from your home on the couch, you can open up your phone and program them however you want. So that's a nice feature these days. When you use them, pretty much any main closures, obviously with high volume, high speed. If you can get them out there for incident management, that's great too. They give that visibility of seeing them. You can see them from far away. The one thing we stick to is that no more than 2 cycles in the display. So basically you have two messages you cycle through. Any more than that, people aren't going to catch them. They're already going to be driven by them. So you stick to 2. Portable signals, we just in the last couple of years, we went from not having really any here in our district to now every garage has one of these. Once our maintenance workers got them on their jobs, they really liked them. They could set them up and not really have to have the flaggers out by the roadway flagging traffic the whole time. They can set these up. And not only does it take, you're eliminating the flaggers, but then now you have more people that can work on your job and not have to worry about traffic constantly. I mean, you got to keep obviously you got to worry about vehicles around you at all times, but you're not having to be active flaggers at that time. If you're doing any work at night, visibility is key. So you want to make sure you got light for both the so vehicles, drivers can see you, as well as the workers being able to see what they're doing. Again, talking about things, we got, various things on our plows and dump trucks that we have markings on them so they can see them at night, lights and strobes. That's day or night, obviously. So those are, we get some complaints sometimes that the lights on the plows are too bright. But that's similar to, people say that with the like law enforcement, the state patrol. Some of those times the strobes are so bright it's blinding to people. Worker visibility, these are vests. Class 2 is what everybody is minimum required to have. We require hard hats at ODOT whenever we're outside the vehicle. Class 3 is for nighttime. Basically, that's just some material that goes down on the sleeve. So just more material that's reflective is really the only difference between Class 2 and Class 3. Go through, how we doing on time, Sarah? I mean, I'm getting somewhat close, so not
You're
too
all
much
right.
long.
You're fine.
Okay. Yeah, maybe just another 5-10 minutes at tops. So traffic flagging, obviously flaggers are critical to doing any work out there on our 2-lane roads specifically. So, they have the job of helping control drivers before entering the zone. We're not using them on high-speed multi-lane roads. They're just out there in the 2-lane roadway situations. Why they're out there, you're to do them right. It's an important job. We tell that to people from day one that come into ODOT. Hey, this is going to be one of the most important jobs you do when you're working on the roadway is the flagger. So we need you to do everything right because you're protecting everybody working in that zone and including the driver that's coming down the roadway. So you want to have somebody that knows what they're doing. This picture, unfortunately, has a lot of stuff going on. The flagger head sign is actually behind the flagger. That should be back, 500 or 1,000, 500 feet before the flagger. They got barrels right there next to them, so it's hard to see this person out there. So the key is that, and we've had issues with people working next to their work vehicles. Once you're next to a work vehicle, maybe people are seeing the work vehicle but not seeing the actual flagger. So we want to separate that as well. So it's more you space things out, the less chaotic it gets, and the more that a driver will be able to see and understand what's going on ahead. There's that flagger head sign behind the flagger. So. And again, flaggers, they gotta stay with it. They gotta be alert at all times. You want to be visible. They stay on the shoulder. We have them stay on the shoulder until the point you have vehicles stopped. Once you got vehicles stopped, you can then stand, actually step in the roadway at that point. You don't want to step out when actually vehicles are still moving. And there's no, we're always telling them to keep an eye on those drivers. Don't turn your back on them at all. Never turn back on a vehicle because you not sure what that driver might do. Again, they're trying to relay information to motorists on stopping or slowing, whatever is happening at that time. So again, flaggers responsible for not only their job, but for all of the other workers in the zone. Here's what you're dealing with is you get drivers that are, a little drowsy out there, or you never know what's going on, with the type of drivers these days. The biggest thing obviously is distracted driving that people are seeing these days. So that's why it's more important than ever to make sure they're paying attention. You know, again, just talking about why it's with drivers, they're doing their own thing that day. We don't know what they're up to. They're probably maybe distracted on their phones or distracted with something in life and not thinking what's going on. So gotta get control, try and control those drivers as much as you can. Other things that affect drivers, you know, alcohol, drugs, obviously, their age, experience, weather. You got a flagger, you know, taking it easy. Not really doing their job out there. It looks like they got the radio out and just taking a break. Here we talk about those things, you know, you got a flagger with their back to traffic. You got a sign that should be back, you know, 500 feet. You got a truck parked next to them. You know, it's hard to see what's going on here. Confusing to the driver. If you confuse the driver is going to make mistakes. So you want to be as clear as possible with communicating to that driver. Here you go. We got somebody else sitting on the truck, taking a little break, reading a book. So you know, even though it's maybe a low volume route out there that only has a couple hundred vehicles a day, it only takes one to you know, make it a tragic event. There's ABCs of flagging. I'll just zoom through these real quick. You know, advance warning, be visible, alert, and C is for control. I won't get too much into any of this. This is again being visible, making sure we have all the proper equipment out there. Guy is visible on the roadway. Equipment, you got the, you know, stop, slow, paddle. Some of those come in roll-ups now that we buy, keep under the seat, a lot easier than the ones, the metal ones you're just throwing in the back of the truck. Again, never move into a path of a moving vehicle. Start at the shoulder. Once they stop, you can get out and stop, keep that driver stopped. It's easy to come up with all these poor examples, but again, you got standing back in the zone basically. They need to be out in front, controlling those vehicles. And then it just taper, you know, typically use a 100-foot taper with the cones from the flagger where they're standing at until you get to the point that you're getting around the zone. Control out of the ABCs, the C is control, obeying the flagger, and the flagger is a, you know, legal traffic control device. So if somebody does something wrong and you have an officer there, they can cite them for failure to obeying a traffic control device. So ABCs. Again, the public's counting on those flaggers to do an important job, as well as just traffic control in general. So overall, common sense, good judgment, and safety is key. You know, making sure everybody is always thinking safety. So that concludes. So, you know, sorry if I flew through those too quick, and I don't know if I had any questions or if anybody had something specific to ask.
Okay, well, we will open it up to questions. We do have one that somebody put in the chat, and they would like you to explain safety corridor areas.
Yeah, safety corridors. There was a district somewhere in central Ohio. They were having a lot of crashes. They felt just something changed all of a sudden, and they felt that it was just the result of distracted driving. I think it was a corridor that had some crashes that just didn't make sense. People were going off the roadway when there was no curves. You know, it's just things that made it seem like drivers were just on their phones. So there was coordination between the state patrol and ODOT. And this district created a distracted driving safety corridor. So at that point, they were putting up a number of signs that said you're entering this corridor. They were actually keeping track of crashes, is what that district was doing. So since then, virtually every district in the state in ODOT has, and there's 12 districts in ODOT. Every district pretty much has a distracted driving corridor. Really, it's kind of started by the State Patrol. They talk about where they're seeing issues. They've seen where they're citing drivers for distracted driving. People cross over the center when there's nothing going on in a roadway. What is going on? That driver's obviously not paying attention. So really, some of these, the one we have in our district is on. They're on US 6 in Wood and Sandusky County. I think we go from I-75 over to actually, yeah, pretty far up into Sandusky County. So that was started by State Patrol saying, hey, we're seeing a lot of issues out there. We want to work together. We get the signs up, and then the State Patrol increases enforcement. So it's kind of agreement between the two agencies that, hey, we're going to target this area. If the State Patrol says, hey, we're not seeing as much of an issue, or we don't have the people to patrol it, we might take down those signs for a period or permanently, or so it's kind of a newer thing that just started a couple of years ago. So like I said, it's spread from one district trying it out to almost every district having them now.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? You can unmute and chime in or drop them in the chat.
One thing I just wanted to go back. I mean, any ODOT questions at all, if you, as far as, with reason, I guess. But I was just a couple updates on projects maybe people are interested in down in that area. US 224 and State Route 587 is going to be getting a roundabout this year. So that one, I think it starts in June and is like a 60-day closure, I believe, of both routes. So that one will be built over the summer, try and get it done to avoid any issues with, school traffic and things like that. So that'll be coming up. US 23 is getting resurfaced from, I think, Signet Road up to US 6. So that stretch is going to receive a resurfacing. I believe those were the only two main projects down that we're looking at down in your area there. Yeah, I could be missing some others, but I just wanted to point those out. If anybody else had questions about any other projects or anything else, feel free to ask.
Okay. And Dylan, I'm not sure if you're aware, but we can see your other screen. We have an Excel.
Oh, you can see that now? Okay.
You might want to pull those down.
Yeah, let me put,
Okay. I'm not sure if I can.
yeah. All right,
Oh, there we go. I stopped your,
okay.
maybe I did.
Yeah, that was just a listing of the projects. I was trying
We don't want to accidentally leak ODOT document.
Right. No secrets here, no secrets.
Okay. Are there any other questions for Dylan today? All right. Well, we thank you so much for your time and your expertise. And just a friendly reminder to the group, our next meeting will be April 13th. And that starts at 11, and that is part of the Ohio BWC mega meeting. So we'll send that out in our normal fashion and in our newsletter. So with that, have a wonderful and safe day, everyone.
All right, take care. Thank you.